Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. The last episode was good, I think, actually.
So,
The
well, yeah, that
micro
was decent.
schooling and riots.
That
Yeah,
was
so
good.
you said
I
you're
haven't checked the
stressed?
comments. Yeah, bro. Very stressed lately, subhanAllah. Because alhamdulillah, there's always things to be grateful for. There's always people that are worse off that you can compare yourself to.
Yeah.
But it's hard, isn't it, to shake that feeling of الغمة.
hmm
الغمة.
Where's it coming from?
مشغوب. Allahu a'lam. I don't know. I used to
Oh,
get
you
it in the
don't really
beginning
know.
quite a
It's
lot.
not obvious, yani.
No, I know where it's coming from. I'm spinning a lot of plates, but I think uh, I think switching off is the problem.
hmm
I tweeted this yesterday only because it came to my mind, but I remember growing up and thinking, oh, my dad's always looking stressed out, or my dad's always like off in the distance, mashghoob, and he's always. I just remember growing up and looking at him, always looking somewhere else and not really with us 100%. He
Mm.
was obviously at times, but there was a lot of the time where his mind was always elsewhere. And now I notice my kids are like that with me. Like they would look at me and I'm not really there because I just get lost in the constant problem solving in my mind.
Mm.
Um, and I
What
think
kind of
my
things
issue,
are you like thinking of?
a lot of things, I think about the family. I think about what I can do to improve our situation. I think about what I can do to achieve our goals, and then specifically with work, and specifically with all the projects I've got, and specifically with Taunus. Taunus is always like a big factor in my mind,
Yeah.
and just trying to weigh up between decisions that the pros and cons of every single micro detail that every single micro decision that you make, because it's like, do I do this or do I do that, or do I do, because no man can do everything, so you've kind of got to weigh up constantly.
hmm
um
Pick
but
your
my issue
battles.
isn't my issue isn't necessarily the fact that I've got to deal with that. It's more of the fact that trying to switch off and be present with family is really difficult. And also,
Yeah.
to get into a more spiritual aspect, it's really affecting my khushu' in salat, because any moment on my own, if I'm at the gym or doing dishes or out getting groceries, like these are the primary, or working out when I'm working, these are the primary times I'm on my own, and those are the times where it's just like 24/7. At least at home with kids, you've got a little bit of a distraction,
Yeah.
but even then, it's like, how do you switch off? And as much as you actively tell yourself, rely on Allah, and have that tawakkul, you can't stop the thoughts just generating in your mind. And
Yes. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know. I wanted to ask you, like, what's your experience with that kind of stuff?
Assalamu alaikum. A few years ago, the conversation about masculinity and Islam popped up. And of course, I took a big interest in that. And some of you might know that I actually wrote a whole book on Islamic masculinity. I went to the Quran, I went to the Sunnah, I filtered out the red pill, I filtered out the feminism, and I came down to what a good Muslim man looks like. It's a really good book with tons of stories and examples from the Sahaba, from the Prophet ﷺ, from the other prophets of how to be a good Muslim man. It's entertaining, it's not too long, and I'm offering you the free first chapter. If you click the description below, then I will send that over to you. And then if you want to get the full book, you can get the full book. We also have the audio version. So check it out. See you around. It's called The Shepherd's Way. Yeah, I label myself as an anxious person.
Okay.
I don't know about yes. Anxiety and stress are like separate things in my head, at least. So yeah, I don't get stressed, I would say, much, but I am an anxious person, and anxiety is like the kind of thing that would cause you to like think and think and think and think, kind of thing. But many times it's happened to me where, like you said, you're spinning many plates, and that's what causes like a lot of stress for me, at least. But what do I like? And that's kind of happening to me right now as well. And what do I do? I just know that it's going to end. Like there's an end to it.
Mm.
And so it's like, there's so much power in acknowledging something as being like quote unquote part of life, right? So as soon as you label something as normal, or like everyone goes through this, or it's just part of life, then it just like makes it way easier to deal with for some reason. It allows you to be more patient with it. And subhanAllah, you could see that in the Quran when Allah is telling you, you will be tested, you will get this will happen. And you can, funnily enough, like you could say, when, if I was having like a skeptical view of reading the Quran, I'd be like, why is my creator telling me like all these bad things are going to happen? Like that would make me worry or make me concerned. But no, it doesn't do that for some reason. I don't know if maybe more skeptical people or atheists, or I don't know, would read it that way. But I think me and most people, like most Muslims, like when they read that, it's actually comforting, the fact that you will be tested, because it's then when it happens, it's like, well, yes, Allah's promise is true. Allah's promise is true. So I always take comfort somehow in that. And then I also take comfort in the fact that, like, because it's part of life, like these things come and go. And I've been through these moments many times, and they always came and went. And sometimes they lasted a few days and sometimes a few weeks, etc. Yeah, and then it's just about, okay, you've had your anxious moment, like you can be anxious, whatever, but now after, like, let that kind of pass over you, and then it's like, okay, now what's the action points? What can you actually do? Because I guess the way I see it is, I lay out what I can do, I do those things, and then it's tawakkul time, because then I can say, like, I've done what Allah expects of me, which is just, juhd and, general effort, and based on the way the world normally works, that's how we operate, right? Although Allah can just remove things out of nowhere, we don't operate that way. We hope things will just get sorted that way, but we operate according to the patterns of what we see, the sunnah of Allah. So take action, and then actually not just like trust in Allah, meaning actually like chill. And I have gone down those paths sometimes where I am actually able to chill. Once I've taken the action that would reasonably resolve the issue, at least partially, because sometimes you can't take the action that would fully resolve it. Once I've done that, I'm like, okay, now Allah's going to sort it out. Like now it's done, it's over, it's good. And when I'm really like anxious, I will allow that to benefit my salah, improve my salah, improve my dua. Like, it reminds you sometimes, like, you're so powerless. Like, that's why you're getting stressed probably, right? Because you're juggling lots of plates and you're powerless to solve all these things, at least in one go. And so that's actually now Allah's test of you, is that, okay, now you're in a moment of humility and weakness, and you're really recognizing your weakness. Do you turn to Allah, or do you like blame Allah? Like some people could blame Allah. But I found, and this is purely like me just seeking out, you could call it like my desires, in terms of I desire less stress and more comfort. And just for that reason, I'm turning to Allah more. But that's how Allah made us. Like that's the benefit, if you like, that by you seeking out comfort, which Allah designed us to do, you turn to Allah, and which is a good thing, yani. A good thing in terms of your akhirah and your dunya, which is beautiful, which is amazing. So that's what I do. After I've taken the action, then I tend to try to deal with that anxiety by making more dua, trying to make more like sincere and deep dua, and always have husn al-dhan, always assume that's going to be fine, it's going to be sorted. And I view husn al-dhan as an action in and of itself, as a way that it's going to be all right, What comes to mind for me, like, this is actually over a year old now, because the most recent time when I renewed my residency here in Turkey, I just wasn't really worried about it. But the time before that, I kind of had this feeling that, there's like a 50-50 chance that it's going to get rejected. We're going to have 10 days to leave the country, blah, blah, blah. At that time, I did my best. I applied for the renewal, blah, 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 blah. And then I was just like sitting in the masjid after salah. I made dua, this and that. And then I was like, yeah, it's gonna go so smoothly. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be phenomenal.
Mhm.
You know that
Mhm.
future meme, phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't remember what exactly he says other than that. Um, so I have that view, and I like try and hold that as like certainty. And whenever I get doubts, like, oh, yes, you assume the best of Allah, but it doesn't mean Allah is definitely gonna give it to you in the way you like, right? So obviously that can always be a thought, but then I'm just like, yeah. So if after my husn al-dhan and my tawakkul and my action has been taken, Allah decides to take me down that path that I didn't want, it's still good. Like it'll be all right.
Yeah.
Because then it's like I've done all the means I can do, and if it still goes the other way, then I don't know exactly how, but like it'll be all right, you know. But mostly, I'm just like I remember I went into that residency appointment thing to renew it when I was like anxious about it, and I was just like, yeah, this is gonna be great. And then I walked in, and they put us at the front of the queue, and then I was missing a document, and I proactively told her, like instead of her like finding out herself or maybe skipping over it or whatever, I actually told her like, oh, I don't have that, and then she's like, yeah, yeah, you don't need it, you don't need it, and it was just like went so smooth. I was in and out. So some people go to these appointments and they'll be there for 2 hours or 3 hours. Okay,
Wow. Yeah.
we were in and out in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, phenomenal.
SubhanAllah.
But and even
Phenomenal.
the guy that took me there, he was like, I've never seen that before. Like how quick you were in and out. Like that's crazy. Now, obviously, logically or practically, we could say, well, it's because I had three kids with me. They pushed us to the front of the queue, of course.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it just went smooth, bro. And I came out thinking like, yeah, like Allah Kareem, like alhamdulillah. Allah always sorts us out, man. So I don't know. These are
Alhamdulillah.
some of the thoughts that go through my head. I find, bro, it's all mind games. That's what I feel like. It's like you just gotta think the things that are gonna help you in that moment, even if they're not true. That's
Yeah.
how I take it.
Yeah.
Do you have any
Yeah.
of these kind of
No, you're
tactics, mind
absolutely right.
games that you play?
Yeah, I echo everything you said. I think I've got full conviction in that kind of whatever Allah guides us to is best, especially when you strive as hard as you can to minimize any wrongdoings that you're doing in your life, any sin or any deficiencies.
That as well.
Because I'm a firm, strong believer. Obviously, there's evidence of this in the Quran and Sunnah, but I'm very actively and acutely aware of the fact that anything bad that happens to me could be, and often is, the result of my own sins. Right?
Yeah.
I'm very to the point where, like, immediately if something bad happens or I hear bad news or whatever, I'm just like going through the catalog of memories in my mind, the recent memories, like what did I do that may
Yeah.
have caused this?
Yeah.
Uqsam billah, I swear to God, every time. And it's like, and it could be even the most minor thing. I'm like, that's it. That was it right there. That time I did that or whatever. Okay. And I
Yeah.
will repent for it. And I will, and it's almost like I'm convinced that it's that specific thing. I don't even need to search. I need to just think, no, it's definitely that thing. Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
that's something from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, no doubt, any time of hardship is an iman booster anyway. Because, I often say to my
Yeah.
wife, like, if we had everything we needed in the world, what kind of Muslims would we be? You know, if we had every stress, extinguished and every desire, fulfilled, what kind of people would we be? Would we be people that call upon Allah subhanahu wa
Yeah.
ta'ala?
Probably
Would we be people
arrogant.
that make
Yeah.
lots of dua? No, and the human being is this nefs at least is inclined towards evil. The nefs, you know, there's nothing to humble you if you have everything. Um, and as much as people who look like they have it all, appear to have it all, they often don't, and they are also dealing with all sorts. So I get that. My issue really is giving the rights of family and the self equal rights, like equal attention or justified attention. Some things actually require your attention more than others, and I think that's my issue. It's not necessarily like halal and haram decisions are very easy to make. you know I'm going to go and do that thing because this thing is forbidden.
Yeah.
right? That's a very straightforward, even if there's temptations in doing haram things, you already know where you need to go. It's not that, but it's the decisions you have to make where actually this is mubah and that's mubah. And
Yeah.
it's not just decisions like grand decisions, it's daily little things like, do I spend another 2 hours working, or do I go and take my kids to the park? Am I, do I spend some time with my family doing something that there's not much material benefit in like physical benefit that you're going to get out of this, or the abstract benefit of, well, they're going to spend time with you, you're going to have discussion with them, you can give them nasiha back and forth, whatever, upbringing, that sort of thing. It's those things, like, really, a man can work from dawn to dusk, or to longer than that, to be honest.
Hmm.
And I find myself lately, like, doing my day job all day, and then I'm like, okay, now I need to work on all my other projects, and then before I know it, bro, it's like 1 a.m. and, and I get up again, and I've noticed I've turned into a bit of a workaholic, in the sense that even if I tell myself, right, the next hour, just sit down, don't try and not think about all the stuff that you need to do, something will cross my mind. I'm like, oh, I need to find out how to do that one thing. Let me look it up quickly. And then suddenly I'm watching YouTube videos and tutorials, and I'm working, but not working.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I might not be doing the active work, but I'm learning how to do the active work tomorrow. And yeah, like, I'm trying to basically give myself red lines of, right, stop now, do something else, think of something else. Um, but even like for example, today I've said to myself, right, at XYZ time, I'm going to take everybody out to the park, and we're going to go to the park. But last week I did that. Even when I was in the park, I wasn't 100% there. I'm not 100% present. And
Mm.
that has definitely affected my salat, because I will tell myself, and you actively tell yourself, khushu' is a huge thing anyway, I think, for a lot of Muslims. And I think I'm just a bit more acutely aware of it now, because you'll be praying, telling yourself to concentrate, reminding yourself of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and focusing on the verses that you're reciting. And out of nowhere, there's just a random other thought comes in, and you're like, in having this battle, and you will pause in your salah, try and realign yourself, and go again, and it just happens. And that, I think, is the most frustrating thing, because despite of everything you've said, and I 100% agree, and I 100% echo it, it's those intrusive kind of uh, concerns that keep coming in. Um,
Mm.
yeah, a lot of it is letting go, isn't it? A lot of it is learning to let go, learning to. I think when you feel like you're against the clock, that's the difficulty. And I think that's what I
Yeah.
feel like I am. I feel like I very much am against the clock. If I didn't have a time thing on me, which is, which is just a fact of life, I suppose, for a lot of people, then you can kind of, okay, today, plan out your day. Every day I do 2 hours of work. Every day I do 3 hours of work, whatever it is. Um, but having a clock ticking on your head, which we all do if you really think about it,
Hmm.
um, and that, I suppose, people get like that about everything. People can get like that about deen, about studying religious knowledge, especially. Like, I could die today, I need to increase my ilm. I could die today, I need to increase my memorization. I think everybody's got something, um, and nothing's promised. And final point, I know I've rambled a bit, but my wife did ask me earlier. She said something along the lines of, like, um, I wonder when XYZ goal will be achieved, right? It's just a comment about something that we're planning. And I thought to myself, you know what? My father used to say that same thing. My dad used to say, my dad used to strive for a goal, but a goal that he never actually ended up really achieving, which was, get his pension, and then for my mum and dad to both live in Tunisia together. And that
Mm.
never actually happened, because I think not long, literally a couple of months maybe after he got his pension, he was diagnosed with cancer. And it's like, wow, so it's not really about the destination, it's actually about the journey. And that is this life. You said it earlier about Allah promising us to be tested with XYZ. It's never about the destination, because there's always a new destination. There's always a
Yeah.
new goal. There's always a new thing that you're chasing, or a goal that you want to achieve. But it's the way there that is, completely full of tests and
Mm.
trials. But we live in a society, especially with social media, a society of people that will show off their destination that they've reached, as opposed to the journey that it's taking them to get to XYZ destination.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think that warps us, you know.
Yeah. What you're talking about kind of leads you to thinking like, because I could die today, and because like whenever you reach a destination, you'll make a new destination. You want to live your
Mm.
ideal, a kind of ideal balanced life today.
Mm.
But that has a kind of built-in contradiction to it, which is if I lived my ideal, not life, but my ideal schedule now, like very balanced, okay, then I would actually be saying goodbye to certain goals I have, right?
Mm.
So then what do I do with that? I actually think about seasons and how my schedule being like this now, it's not a permanent thing. It's something you can turn on and off. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of things can be achieved with 3 months focus rather than giving it like ticking along, little bit, very balanced life every day. Instead, just, you know what it is, bro? Having an unbalanced lifestyle on purpose can be very beneficial. But when it's not on purpose, when it's like you said, like your kind of work just bleeds into your life, and next thing you know, it's 1 a.m. and you didn't plan for that. That is probably
Yeah.
when you feel worse about it. You feel like things are not under control, this and that. But when you decide, look, these next 3 months, all I'm focusing on is this, and yes, that will require maybe less time with my kids, for example. Yeah, but
Yeah.
for firstly, you've decided it, and secondly, you've put a deadline on it, so it's 3 months maximum. Like you're cutting it off in that 3 month time. I think that's very very useful to do intensive bouts of work or whatever it is, or focus on whatever it is, acknowledging the costs that that will come with, but then you know there's a deadline.
Yeah.
And you know, they give the
Yeah.
analogy of like, don't be like a cow, which is just like all day is just grazing, nibbling like bits of food. Be like a lion that is like chilling and like
Yeah.
scouting, looking, and then will use loads of energy to grab that gazelle, and then it's back to chilling, right? Like
Yeah.
different way of operating, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. I think part of it, I think, is obviously this uh, new venture into freelancing, like actively freelancing as opposed to the sporadic projects.
Yeah.
Like now that like I'm working on a client project at the moment,
Mm.
and it's quite it's quite very lax, shall we say. Like there's no real deadline, but because my desire, like, okay, I want to get this done to a good standard. It's like I can always work on it. I can always keep working on it. And then I know that once I complete this, then I can move on to the next project, right? But as long as I've got this to do, I feel like I'm too preoccupied to take
Yeah.
anything else on.
Yeah.
And I am. I don't think I physically could do more than one at a time to a good standard at this current stage, you know, alongside a day job, alongside the family, alongside the kids, that kind of thing. Um, so I think that's what's new at the moment for me, is the fact that, right, this is
Mm.
kind of you know, graphic design stuff I've done before is very different to web design. Graphic design, I could really, you know, churn out a project in a week maximum, less than that if I'm doing an all nighter, because it's not that heavy for me, and it's also very. I've got a lot of experience, you know, in that realm. Web design is a lot newer to me, and I've learned a lot, but there's so much I can learn. And I think that's what it is. It's the fact that um, there is just an ocean of stuff when it comes to this, and there's so much that you can incorporate into just a simple website, you
Yeah.
know. Especially if you're someone who wants to, you know, be very skilled in different areas. You can incorporate a lot of graphic design into your web design. You can incorporate even video work in web
Yeah.
design. You
And
can
animation and
incorporate,
all this. Yeah.
yeah, e-commerce, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And um you don't know everything or how to do everything until you
Yeah.
are asked for it or learn it, you know.
Yeah.
Or it's not until a client requests something quite specific, you're like, oh, I've never done that before. I
Mm.
need to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
And
And the
then,
first time always takes
you
much
know,
longer. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So I think a lot of that is played into it
Yeah.
because, like I said to you earlier, like last night, this happened to me. I was like, you know what? I've worked so much that I think I should physically stop because my brain's going to explode. Like, I have to stop. So
Mm.
I stop, go sit down. I'm like, just do something completely different. I go to the kitchen. I notice there's some dishes. I start washing dishes, bro. I put on a lecture while I'm washing the dishes, and that's distracting me. Alhamdulillah, I feel this raha coming
Mm.
over me.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
then I'm
Yeah.
thinking, all right, let me go sit down. So I've done the dishes. I come and sit down, and I'm like, oh, because I have this like technical thing that I'm trying to figure out how to solve in this web
Mm.
design thing. Oh, let me just quickly look that up because I've just had a thought. Look it up before I know it. I've watched like a 2 hour long like tutorial, even though I've been working all day. And it's like, oh my god, this is taking over my life. But
But
that's the
why do you
kind of
need to?
thing, man. It's
Why
that
do you feel the
intrusive.
need to stop? It sounds like you want to do
Because
it. You don't have to do it.
yeah, I get it. I get it. I think it's because I'm not used to that level of uh like taking over. I don't want it to consume my
Uh-huh.
every minute, especially when it's infecting even like my most important moments in Salat, right?
Mm.
That's the
Sure.
problem.
Yeah.
It's if you can't, I've noticed that if I can't put red lines to times and moments, then how do I expect to do that when I'm like praying or in a
Yeah.
Jum'ah khutbah?
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? Like when I'm
Yeah.
sat at Jum'ah and like if the topic of the khutbah is something that just, topics vary. So if a topic of a khutbah, like, oh,
Mm.
it's exactly what I'm going through right now, you're engaged, you're there, you know. But if the topic of the khutbah, let's say, for example, is about children at school, like actively target towards children, and this is what they should do. Like recently, there was a topic of grades. Okay, everybody got their GCSE grades, etc.
Ah, yes.
And I was just like, this isn't for me, but it isn't for my children either. Like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're not being targeted for this.
Yeah.
I'm not being targeted for this. There are a lot of lessons definitely that you can achieve and you can apply to a lot of goals that you have for yourself. One of which was like having humility, even if you do really good, like that was one of the key lessons. But straight away, I was, the devil comes and tempts you with distraction because you're not 100% engaged in this topic. And I don't want to be like that. I want to be actively present. Um, and I think what scares me is obviously, غدوة يوم القيامة will always be questioned about our salat first and foremost,
Yeah.
and how much of it is
Mm.
naqsa, how much of it is missing, uh,
Yeah.
and how can I expect the things that I need to work out for me when I can't even
Mm.
uh,
Prioritize the
give
number
Allah
one.
subhanahu wa ta'ala my 100% focus and
Yeah.
attention during salat.
Mm.
Um,
I don't know
I
if
know
I
there are
have a
spiritual
solution
remedies.
to that.
Yeah, no, I know, but this is just me. I like talking out loud because I
Yeah.
think
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody really deals with it. I know there are spiritual remedies. I know one of the key ones is deficiencies in salat can be made up with voluntary prayers as well, and the voluntary prayers increases your overall time in prayer, which ideally increases your ability to focus and
Mm.
increases your
That
ability.
muscle. Yeah.
Also, memorizing more Quran, switching up and memorizing different du'as and different things to recite in your prayer. Um, so I think those are like active internal projects to
Mm.
work on.
Mm. One
Um,
thing I was thinking of, bro,
it's
is,
Go for it, yeah.
and I was sharing this in the front row call on Sunday, is, to be honest, bro, like when it comes to achieving something big, like, a lot of, for example, going like full time in your freelance career or whatever you want to call it, going full time on that, it's a big thing, bro. It's a big like achievement, inshallah, when you achieve that. But YouTube would have you think it's not a big deal. It's very easy. It's
Yeah,
elementary. You have to be dumb not to be able to do that or whatever, right? But no, let's not be silly. Let's be real. It is a very big achievement. It's an amazing thing. Yes, with the right skills and experience, it's pretty easy. But without the right skills and experience, at the beginning, it's very hard,
yeah,
right? And I was talking about something like that because I was talking about when I was first getting into business, probably like 8 years ago now. And I was saying that because I had that as a goal that I wanted to do some sort of business, some sort of marketing, online marketing thing in the future and like probably for the rest of my life, because I wanted that so much, I didn't count the time, you know, I didn't count the hours. Of course, I was single and all of that, but I didn't look once. But then some other people, I'm seeing them being like, yeah, so I'm going to spend like, they've got like a huge goal as well, right? Like maybe start a business
Yeah.
or they want to get shredded or whatever it is. And they're like, yeah, so I'm thinking to like spend 20 minutes a day on it. And I'm like, look, maybe that will work for you. But that's the complete opposite attitude I had towards my business and goals in that area. I was like, I will
Yeah.
spend 10 hours on this today and I won't even know. Like if you ask me how long do you spend, I'll just be like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just spent the day on it. I'm not sure. And the next day I would do the same, and the next day I would do the same. And then when I got a job, I would come home. I would rest a little bit, half an hour, chill or take a nap, and I would be on it again. And then, by the way, on the way to work and back from work, I was listening to stuff related to it. So
Yeah.
I breathed it, bro. I inhaled and exhaled this stuff, and I think people don't. They somehow get the idea that that's not really required, that it will kind of come to you without that. And so the way you're describing that it's like constantly coming to your mind, but I think that's a sign of success coming because, and I think that's like necessary almost to
Yeah.
do it. But what I would say is it's a season, right? It's a season. It's not going to always be like that. It doesn't have to always be like that. But definitely at the beginning where a lot of the heavy lifting is, it's almost necessary, I would say. If anyone is going to
Yeah.
achieve something like go from being employed to then fully being self-employed or having a business, something like that, like some sort of big undertaking, don't downplay, like don't underestimate how much effort is required. Instead, just put so much effort that it would almost be unreasonable. It'd be like very weird if you didn't succeed with it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yes, like don't do that for the rest of your life. But for example, let's say you want to go full time on your freelancing, and yes, you do have a family and kids right now, but you've got this thing that inshallah is going to set you up for the next 10, 20 years of your life or whatever. And so if you were to go intense on it for the next 12 months, 9 months, it would actually be a reasonable payoff. Like it actually would be,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
my
Of course.
opinion. It depends how much you want it, bro. But one thing I was telling the brothers is if you are not willing to work on this thing without getting the ultimate success for 3 years or more, or like 2, 3 years or something like that, if you need success to come in less than that time for the effort to be worth it, then probably don't do it. You probably don't actually believe
Yeah.
it's worth the effort. So I think people just don't. They for some reason they think things are easier than they are. And like I said, maybe that's because on YouTube people are talking about how it's easy and stuff. But the reality is sometimes those people on YouTube are not fully being honest. But sometimes what I described of just working on stuff for 10 hours a day every day, they actually think that's easy. Like maybe they don't have the self-awareness to realize that other people are not like that.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a good trait, that kind of obsession. But it's just that whenever you think, oh, but this obsession, it's not good for my family, it's not good for this, not good for that, I would just say it's a season though. And it might be a
Yeah.
necessary
Of course.
season for you then to get onto where you're looking to go, which ultimately will be beneficial for your kids and for your salah and for your et cetera. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 I get that as well. I think the intrusive thoughts a lot of the time are because of that obsession, and it's because of that genuine engagement with the topic at hand. Because if you weren't
Yeah.
interested in it, you wouldn't be able to sustain
Yeah.
the work.
It's
You know,
good
you
though,
were
man.
interested in online marketing, and because of that, you were obsessed over it. You would listen to podcasts on it. You would, I'm yes, likewise. I know I'm quite new to the web design space, but there's so much design in it, and I love design and always have. I get obsessed with that now because there's a whole like world of creativity just opened up, and it's also about taming that creativity as well because you can be infinitely creative, but
Yeah.
that's not what is always required.
Yeah.
What's
It has to fit
required is
into the
having core
spec. Yeah.
fundamentals. Exactly. exactly, and that's like something like I'm trying to learn to tame myself. You know,
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah.
I've got a few mentors, alhamdulillah, that are in this space and have been for a long time. And, you know, I always go to them for feedback and stuff that I've built and stuff that's out there. And it's like, you know, I had one recently where it's like, because we're like a big group we've got like a community, schools community, that Pivot to Tech community, actually. Shout out to
Mm.
Shoaib and Pivot to Tech. And there was like a portfolio feedback session. So we all submit our portfolios and then it gets reviewed. And like, I think mine was the second one, but everyone's just showed it's like very very like I don't want it's very efficient and very like to the point and very, and I'm like, oh, you know what, this is more straight to the, this is what a client wants to see, like, you know, straight to the point. This is
Mm.
what I've done, this is what. And then you go on my one and it's like animations, things
Mm.
like flipping around everywhere, and I'm like, oh, it looks good, but then again, that's what I like, and that's the clients I kind of want. And the client I've got at the moment is also like a graphic designer, so it's like maybe that is my niche. Maybe that's what I'm looking for. Maybe the niche is people that are creative and want to show off that creativity. So each to their own, isn't it? But no, this notion of taming yourself is really important, I think,
Yeah.
because you can get carried away. It doesn't have to be like a season. Although yes, if I go hard, then I will achieve it by XYZ time, roughly, approximately.
Hmm.
I think unless you can know when the season's over, you could be stuck in that loop forever, because there's
You
always
could, yeah.
somewhere you can go.
You
There's
could.
always a growth that you can. Like, I could go from freelancer to wanting to start up an agency to bringing on board, other creatives, to all sorts, all sorts. I could carry on and carry on and carry on. And if I work 10 hours a day every day, extra on top of whatever else you got to do, it could keep going. Now the conflict is children grow up very, very quickly, like really, really fast.
Mm.
And my kids got a haircut yesterday, and haircuts with kids, they just make them look like a few years older as soon as they get them.
Mhm.
And I was just like, oh my God. And
Mhm.
like, I'll be working, working, working. I just look up, and like Suleiman's just staring at me. And I'm like, oh, I have my headphones in. I take my headphones in.
Mhm.
I'm like, sorry, what did you say? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel awful about it. And all I can remember, going back to the beginning of this episode,
Mm.
is me being his age, looking at my dad, thinking, or
Mm.
on the phone thinking, or
Mhm.
just thinking in general. Because see, there wasn't laptops or stuff back then. There was just him in his mind, just churning, right?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, damn, I can't get through to him, And I think it has developed. I think my dad dying like that has developed a complex in me of like, I know that I would do anything to spend. Obviously, qadar Allah ma sha'a fa'al, but I know I would do anything to go back and like break that wall and spend more time with him and learn more from him, etc., etc. But now I see that wall from my son's perspective, you know, and I know you mentioned like it's a short seasonal thing, but I can't help but always think like that. Think like, oh my God, I'm constantly at it,
Mhm.
and there's like a wall between me and my kids, because I'm just, even when I'm trying to engage, I'm not 100% there. And I think that's the conflict. I think it's like, do I want to do the same thing that I felt was not done to me? But at least, alhamdulillah, I'm an adult now, and I can see everything my father was thinking. I get it, and
Yeah.
maybe that's it, and maybe that's life, and maybe the life isn't meant to, we're not meant to be spending all of our time together now. Maybe that's for Jannah, inshallah.
Mm.
So
Well, I
these are
mean,
all your, thoughts.
Assalamu alaikum. I mean, popping in here just to mention the four things that were pillars of Alhamdulillah, the success that I've had so far. One is coaching and mentorship. That's having people who are a little bit ahead of me in life guide me and make me really question the next moves I'm doing and whether I'm truly committed to my actions. Number two is accountability. Having somebody check in on me and make sure that I'm doing what I said I would do every week. The third thing is brotherhood and good support. You know, they say that you are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So having good people around you. And number four is purely having that drive, that hunger, that mindset of driving myself forward and becoming above average, making sure that my ambitions and my reality and my work rate are in line with each other. And these are the four things that I've combined in my Muslim men's community, the front row. If that sounds interesting to you, if you're looking to crush your goals this year and really become that above average person, then click in the link in the description and you can join the waitlist to find out when it opens next. See you around. Like from what I know, bro, like you're working on the freelancing thing for the sake of a better life, a more balanced life, which ultimately means better like either time or relationship, etc., with your family, right? So
Right.
what you're trading is you're trading the short term for the long term, and
Mm.
yeah. So if you want, like, it's a choice, isn't it? That's the thing. Is
Yeah, exactly.
you
Yeah.
you could just, yeah, you could bin the freelancing and be like, no, I prefer just staying with the same lifestyle, spending a few more hours a day with my family. But that means maybe I can't move to Tunisia. Maybe I can't eventually spend
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
time with my. So it's a choice. But I do think, yeah, if you're gonna go on one of these intensive ones, I do think it's necessary to lift these big boulders of goals. But yeah, I think you need a check in with yourself every like 3 months just to make sure you haven't turned it into an autopilot thing where the
Yeah.
new norm is to like, never see your family or,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I've never,
Yeah.
alhamdulillah, I've been quite rigid with those things, right? Like I've always been like, probably since I got married, I started feeling this need to just be like, have boundaries around like work time and stuff. But I don't think I've ever been extreme. Like I've never been coming home really after 5, 6. So I think generally I've been pretty balanced. But I have goals to be even more kind of,
Mm.
come home even
It,
earlier
you,
and do this and that. So, but it's a
ev- ev- ev-
process.
everyone's, you know what? Like, I think at the same time, I can't, we can't, both of us really can't be too harsh on ourselves as well. Cut ourselves some slack. And the reason I say that is because some people don't have don't have a family while they're doing all of this, right?
Yeah,
And some people who are in our situation will find it very easy to pick the path of least resistance, which is, you know, become salary men, 9 to 5, and not just 9 to 5, but just
nine to
work for
nine.
someone. And then, well, as soon as you book off, you're off and you've switched off, and
Uh
that's
huh.
it. I was very much like that in the police. It was very, I hated the police, working in the police. So there was a little bit of a motivator to kind of get out. But initially, when it wasn't as stressful, it was very much, okay, I booked off. I am done. Don't ask me to do anything.
Yeah, yeah,
Like work, I don't want to hear it. um, and it was very easy to justify any inaction or self development or learning a new skill or whatever because hey, I just went through a 12-hour, 15-hour, whatever shift, fighting people. Like I'm
yeah,
done. Like don't
yeah,
talk to me.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? What I could justify, bro. I could even justify just like sleeping in the middle of the day because no one would question it because they'd say he was working all night or he was out in the streets, he was whatever. So like back then it was. So there are a lot of people that I respect that will have this obsession without any material motivator apart from their own desire to kind of get there. Whilst for me, I think it took having a wife and children. I think a lot of people it does that. I think
Mm.
having a family, it either makes you, uh, you said two choices, right? It either makes you relinquish anything extra and just focus all your attention on them, or it drives you to this obsessive, like, no, I have to do something for them. No, I have to work harder for them. Oh, I have to, you know, because
Hmm.
I know for a fact, and I say this with no like, restriction. If I wasn't with my wife and children today, like if I didn't have them, it didn't exist,
Mm.
I wouldn't be here. Like I would just go, like I'd be in Tunisia probably, and like just do exactly what my dad did without any kind of desire for anything more than that. Because I don't want much more than a very simple life, if you know what I mean. Like I don't have any needs beyond the
Okay.
basics.
Mm.
But my children have needs that they can't control. My wife has needs that she can't control. Like their needs aren't out of their own, volition in a sense. A man's needs are singular. I can provide a singular, you can provide singular needs for yourself. It's quite simple. You don't need to overwork yourself. But when you're trying to match that, you know, fourfold, fivefold, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
sixfold, sevenfold, however many people you're responsible for,
Yeah.
then yes, you do need to work, twice as hard, three times as hard, four times as hard to feed and to nourish and to provide for all those people equally. So I think, yeah, for a lot of people, it goes back to what you were saying about the obsession. Some people aren't obsessed at all because they don't have the people to do it for. And some people lose interest because it's not really that important. It's interesting. Oh, I like it. But as soon as they hit a brick wall, which everybody does on any journey,
Yeah.
that's it. This was too hard.
100%.
Whether
Yeah.
it's any venture,
But I would argue
it could be
that's not
bricklaying,
allowed.
it could be
Like, no,
what?
that's not allowed. Because
What is
like,
it?
I know you're
Giving
kind
up?
of, yeah, not giving up, not having ambitions outside of surviving, right?
Mm,
And like, I know you're talking from like the money angle, maybe, but I'm not just talking about that. Like, there are certain jobs that you would be happy with. You'd feel like you're getting paid a decent amount and it's decently fulfilling. But then you might get obsessed with memorizing the Quran or talab
yeah,
al-ilm of some sort, or volunteering or da'wah, or I don't know, helping the elderly in your thing, or, whatever it is. Yeah. Everybody needs something, bro. Otherwise, like, you were not made to just survive. That's what cows do. That's really what
yeah,
cows do. That's what Allah says about I think it's in Surah Al-Baqarah. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا يَتَمَتَّعُونَ وَيَأْكُلُونَ كَمَا تَأْكُلُ الْأَنْعَامُ. Those that disbelieve, they just enjoy, they follow the desires, and they eat like the cows eat. And what the cows do, bro, like I was just talking about the cows, isn't it? They just graze. They just graze, follow their stomach, what it tells them to do, and they're basically just surviving. And the Muslim is not
yeah,
allowed to do that. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be chasing money. It doesn't have to be chasing money. Some people have accepted that they will live a more modest life, and they've even chosen that for their family. And their family's like, whatever, on board
yeah,
with it, or what, more or less. And they're like, okay, we're not going to strive to earn more money. We're going to strive to volunteer or whatever it is, improve our community, whatever it is. But I think everybody, bro, needs some sort of striving. Like, for example, for my wife, we talked about it last episode. It's that micro school thing. Like, that is where huge
yeah.
amounts of her efforts go. Allah yajziha khair. So everybody should
And
have something, man. Yeah, and for a lot of guys, yeah, it will be linked to money, because money, like, crazy how much it makes the world go round, But yeah.
yeah, but I think there's definitely beyond just Muslims. I think there's definitely people in the world, many people in the world that do just graze
Yeah.
and they're fine with it. And I know what that temptation feels like. I know what it feels like to say, I'm done for the day. Like, because that there's the psychological effect of a booking on and off system,
Yeah.
even at work, is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like, that, oh, the weekend is here, it's Friday, whatever.
Yeah.
We didn't
Yeah.
have that in the police, but in the police, you definitely had I've booked off. I've switched my radio off. My
Yeah.
phone is
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
done. I've
Yes.
taken the uniform off.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
That definitely, and I think that's like the last not the last 5 years, but the 5 years I was there,
Mm.
that did definitely have a big effect. The reason why shifts happened is because the last year or two became so unbearable that I had to get out. So I had to do something. So I had to force myself. And I think that was a lot of people have that. But for people that, like, they have a steady job, they're quite secure in their job. There's nothing on the horizon that they can anticipate or foresee that is going to shift anything. Especially people that work in, like, maybe the private sector can be a bit, you don't know what's going to happen in the private sector, but in the public sector,
It's very
a lot of
chill,
people are quite
very,
secure.
yeah, secure. Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Also,
It can be quite secure.
yeah.
Even policing, bro. Unless you, like, for example, frontline officers can be quite at risk, but, like, people that are working, in the on desk work, and they're not actually officers and they're within the organization, very secure. very secure. You're very looked after. Like if this organization is downsizing or this department is downsizing, we'll find you a place. Don't worry, we'll find you somewhere else. We're not just going to get rid of you. Like there
That's
is
the
that.
comfort
Like
trap.
I'm not. Yeah. So you've
Yeah.
got that, but then you booking off, bro. It's like I'm
Yeah.
done.
Yes.
Sweet. I can just
Yeah.
live my life for the rest of how
Yeah.
many
I
hours.
haven't
And
I haven't experienced that much because I haven't like had
right.
many jobs like that. But my business partner Mohammed, he said the only thing I miss from having a job is that
Yeah.
ability to switch off, and now nothing is my business, nothing is my of my concern,
Yeah.
right? Whereas
Yeah.
with your own business, I mean, it doesn't really matter when a problem occurs. You just have to tend to it, or even if you're not tending to it, you're thinking about it a lot of the time, to be honest. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I think the only thing that's going to make me really feel better about that inability, sorry, to switch off is to rectify my intention. I think for all of us is to constantly renew our intention, because
Yeah.
it might be like I might see that as time being taken away from other things I need to do. But if I can remind myself, like this really is fi sabilillah, because
100%.
these are the things that are fi sabilillah I can achieve. These
Yeah.
are the benefits fi sabilillah that I can bring.
Yeah.
And if I can do that, then I can not feel so bad about it, and then I can be like, oh, actually, no, I did quite well there. Oh, this was a good decision. So, yeah, I think
That's key, man.
having to,
And
yeah,
also, bro, I
translating
think,
that though to your
yeah,
children is difficult though. Trying to tell that to your children,
you
like,
mean
because I get
communicating
it
it to
now
you.
all the time. They're like, oh, dad's working all the time. Oh, he's always working. Oh, why is he saying he's always working?
But
When is he
on
going to
a
stop working?
practical one, bro, couldn't you, when do you come back from work usually?
Oh, every day is different, but like if I'm working from home, I'm here, like on this desk here all day long,
Until when?
and because yeah, like I don't like to work in my own room and lock away, because it's not fair on my wife to just. I mean, she can manage, but like I like to be present in case there's some parenting to do, because I can just hit pause and go and help with something or hold something, whatever. That's fine. I'm not too worried about that. But and I've also my concentration isn't necessarily affected because I got white noise, bro. I got these headphones, white noise. I'm gone. Like you can be talking to me, I'm not hearing anything. I love it. Do you know you haven't got an iPhone, have you? There's
I
like they've
do.
incorporated like all these white noise features on here, like
Oh yeah, I
ocean
use that
sounds and
sometimes. It gives you
trees
good
and
sleep.
stuff. Oh, dude, I get laser focus on there. Bro. I put that on. I'm in the Matrix, bro. Plug me in, Neo. But that's it.
Have you got noise cancelling
Yeah. So
earphones?
no, I've got very bad hearing, so any sound coming through headphones is enough for me. Like my hearing
Okay.
is not that great.
Right.
But
Yeah, so when do you finish work,
yeah,
bro? Average.
my day job is like 9 to 4, 9 to 5. But
Okay.
I'm also like multitasking a million other things whilst doing my day job, and my like my freelance stuff and anything else I do is bleeds into that and carries on into the
Yeah.
evening. But I
And
will
when do your
say,
kids
like,
sleep?
they sleep at 7 o'clock,
That's
7ish.
easy then, bro.
I
Like,
say they sleep at 7,
yeah,
but you
it's
know,
really 8.
it's like 9. They'll be awake until 9, and then Khalil is just a menace, bro. Like you put him to sleep, he's got his own room, so he'll like you can just hear the door handle going, and he's like peeking, and you hear him run it, and then like I could be upstairs working, and then he'll just run into my room and just stare at me, and I'm like, I thought you were asleep.
Yeah,
He's great,
so
man. Alhamdulillah, but
if you're with the kids, 4 to 7, is that
yeah,
reasonable?
bro. Listen, I know this is what you're going to say, like, oh, you can organize over. Kids don't care. It's never enough, and they'll always make you feel guilty. You could spend 10 days, you could spend 10 hours with them, and they always want the next thing. Like yesterday. Was it yesterday? What day is it today? Oh God, time flies. Sunday. It must have been Sunday. Took him out, bro. Took him to this nice museum, and a business museum. This museum is amazing. They got what they call it, taxidermy, like like hundreds, thousands of animals that are taxidermied in these glass boxes, and it was amazing. Never even been there. I walk past it all the time. Anyway, what I'm trying to establish is that it was a crazy new experience, and
Yeah.
they all loved it. As
Yeah.
soon as we step out, bro, what are we doing now? So we mean what we do now?
You're like a jester for them. You have to entertain them.
I know, I know. Bro. Or like, subhanallah, like, Allah barak, bro. May Allah protect them and bless them, bro.
I mean,
Constantly hungry, and that's not because I'm not feeding them. I
yeah,
promise you,
yeah, yeah.
constantly hungry.
Hmm.
And see, we have big dinner. Alhamdulillah, home cooked meal. Alhamdulillah, bro. I cook so much now. I just enjoy cooking.
Well,
It's
this
not
is where
because
all your time is going away from your kids.
Nah, I enjoy cooking, bro. I enjoy sitting and having a meal, and I enjoy watching them eat my food I've cooked. And I'm like, ah, you like it? Yeah, see, daddy's cooking. but a lot of the time, they don't eat what we cook because they're very picky. But anyway, eat, bro. 5 minutes later, can I have a snack? No. We talk about have a snack. No, I want to even be snacks in the house. What even is a snack? No, I don't want to eat that. No, I'd want to eat again. No, I'm hungry. Have a big dinner. Hungry again. Bro, 4, 5 breakfasts. I swear to God. Even though they're like hearty breakfast, like with, porridge and bread and eggs and smoked salmon and whatever I can, muster up. I think it's just having young, energetic boys that don't stop. And but there's also a shift as well in maybe what I'm used to as a child, and what these kids of this generation are like. Allah alam. But I remember vividly being a kid. I didn't ever go to my dad and say, "Play with me." I had my own toys. I had my own things.
Yeah.
I go and do my own thing. And one of my kids, like Ilyas, he's like that. Like Ilyas doesn't really come up to me or any of us, me and my wife,
The middle
and say,
one,
"Oh,
bro.
play with me,
He's the
play with
most
me."
independent.
He goes up, bro. I'm like, "Where's Ilyas? I haven't seen him in ages." I say, "Ilyas," I shout at him. He goes, "I'm playing my Lego." He's doing his own thing.
That's a good
The
sign.
youngest one wants me all the time. Oldest one wants me all the time. Dad, look at this. Dad, look what I did. Dad.
Yeah.
And it's like, subhanAllah, this is very different. I don't know. I'm not used to this, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure about that one, I'm not sure how to deal with that, because on one hand, I feel like what you just said, like, kids shouldn't rely on their parents to like entertain them and
Yeah.
play with them and all that. If they play with them and stuff, it's good. But for them to need that, it just seems a bit weird. So I don't know. Apparently, I don't know if that's like a training thing. I need to train them to know you can independently play and have fun without me, or whether I need to give in and actually know it is a good thing and it is required. I'm not really sure at all.
Well, it's difficult at the same time, because you can't help but interpret that as like a desire to be loved, and they love you so much they want you,
potentially.
right? You can't help but interpret it like that. And you shutting that down is really a difficult thing to kind of
It
internalize.
could be damaging.
Yeah, but also 3 boys telling them to play together, especially when one of them is like, 1 years old, and the other one, the oldest, is 7, and then the other middle one, and it's like, you hear a big thud upstairs and one of them's crying, and then you don't know what's happened because you've just told them to go play together. And it's like that kind of concern of like, am I going to have to go to the hospital again? Like, has someone bumped their head too hard, or what have they been doing, or have they been fighting over something, whatever it is. I think it's just the nature of having boys. I think Allahu A'lam what girls would be like. But it's all great. It's all fun. It's all a journey. Alhamdulillah, like, you can't be more grateful. Wallahi al-azim. And I think it's just going back to what we said from the beginning. It's just the journey, isn't it? This is parenthood. This is life. One day we'll die. We'll look back on this being in the next life and think, wow, that was a trip.
Yeah. Inshallah, if we had good intentions, it'll be worth it. Yeah.
Inshallah.
But I was going to say that because your kids sleep like decently early, man. If they sleep at 7:30, something like that, that does actually give you a couple hours to do your freelance stuff, and a couple hours, 2 to 3 hours a day, and then maybe, who knows, a bit more on the weekend if needed. That's plenty. I think that's enough to actually make progress while still having, I don't know what you consider to be a good amount of time, but I feel like 3 hours, let's say, of solid attention given to your kids, etc. That is good. And then on top of that, you're gonna have the weekend, which would be more time. So
Yeah.
I actually think that's balanced. That's not even like going intense mode. That's balanced, but I could see how you could make real progress with that. So
Yeah. I think,
that's your schedule that I'm
it's
prescribing for you right now. Let me just write that
thanks, doctor.
here.
Um, no, ultimately, Aki, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that puts barakah in our time, isn't it? You could
I
be
mean,
someone
yeah,
who has
well,
nothing
that's
but the work that is ahead of you, and you just feel like you're making no progress, you know, and and that is the key thing. And even, you know, where you are and what you've done, where you are even physically can have an effect on barakah.
mm-hmm.
Honestly, like my brothers-in-law have gone to Algeria, I think to live, basically to live there.
Okay.
I think that's their intention. Allahu alam how, Allah alam what their plans are, but I think the plan is to live there. I spoke to them the other day, and they're just like, he said like he feels like there's so much more barakah in his time there. Like he feels like he's getting stuff done, and it's only like half the day has been like achieved so much, and only half the day has been done. And um, I think that's really important. I think having barakah in your life, having barakah in your money, having barakah in everything that you do, in your children even,
Yeah.
is so vital. And I think ultimately, you know, we can be helpless in the fact that, like, helpless in the thoughts that come into our mind and stuff, but ultimately it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in control, even to the
Mm-hmm.
most minute detail. Um, and that is just the reminder: do what you can, ask Allah for guidance, ask Allah to balance your time. You know, how often every day am I asking Allah to balance my time and guide me, like constantly? Because I don't know what the right decision is to make. I'll
Mm-hmm.
ask Allah for guidance. I'll just pick one and go for it. You know, it's
Yeah.
like a mini istikhara there and then on the spot.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
just ask Allah for guidance, pick it, do it.
Mm.
Didn't work, do the other one. Ask Allah for guidance, pick it, do it. It's just rinse, repeat, that constant. But as long as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is constantly, the dua is constantly being made, istighfar is constantly being made throughout all of that. Like
Mm.
you can work and you can be making dhikr at the same time. You know, you can be stuck on something, you can ask Allah to guide you just on that particular thing. Even if it's something so minute as like, I don't know what color to pick here, on a design project, or, oh, I don't know how to work. Like I had this the other day, I was trying to figure out how to fix this like digital element and I couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, I just quickly make dua that Allah helps me. I stopped, did something else, came back to it, and I just figured it out very quickly,
Mm.
you know? And
Mm-hmm.
also looking back at where you were and where you are, because
Mm.
um, I had to fix something on an old website. And I remember thinking, damn, this took me like a good hour to figure out. And I just did it in 5 minutes now
Mm.
because I've learned how to do it
Yeah.
before. It's like, well, that's learning. That shows that the work that you're putting in is getting you somewhere. You can
Yeah.
always look at the ocean in front of you and think, how am I going to swallow the ocean? But you can look back and see, where
Yeah.
you've come,
Look at the
how far you've
footsteps.
come. And I think that's really important as well. That reignites that kind of flair. Um, yeah, I think we've covered our bases here. Yeah.
One thing that I do as well when I'm stressed or what's the word? Spinning many plates is that thing I said where I step back and I just like take action and all that. Like
Yeah.
I will also, because the thing that like gets to me a lot is like that's what actually makes me stressed is when there's multiple things, yeah, and they all feel like they need to be done at the same time. They're like equally urgent. But what I'll do
Yeah.
is I'll sit down and I'll think about which one is actually more urgent than the others. And when I think about it properly, usually I'll come to the conclusion that actually, no, they don't all need to be done at the same time with the same urgency. There's this needs to be done really urgently, and then there's this, then there's this, then there's this. So then what I'll do is I'll focus on that first one, and I'll actually just bin the others from my memory completely, like from my brain, as much as I
Uh,
can, Yani. And I'll just like focus on one thing at a time. And yeah, I think that helps me as well a lot. Sounds like an interview question, actually. I
some
was
people
asked
get
that in an
very,
interview.
very. So you reminded me of something in school. Like I
Hmm.
used to do health and social care studies, and I remember like they used to sit us down to do this de-stress session, and they'd
Okay.
say, "Oh, everyone close your eyes. I was like, what, 14? Everyone
Mm,
close your eyes. Imagine your mind is a computer.
mm,
And imagine you've got all these different files and folders. And
mm,
it's like, pick the thing that's stressing you and just drag it to the recycle bin and delete.
mm. Yeah, good.
Because when you said that, I was like, ooh, you just unlocked a memory that I forgot I had. Um, there probably is all sorts of like people. I think people do get lost in that as well. Like people get lost in the self-help side of this. It's like, oh, how can I manage my time and how can I do this? And you can, I can see potentially getting lost in the theory of doing all of that
Mm.
as opposed to which then actually builds your stress because you're not dealing with your issues. You're trying to deal with how to deal with your issues,
Yeah, yeah,
if
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean. Like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
it's quite paradoxical in that
You're
sense.
focused on
I could
the
read a book.
strategies instead of the just using the strategies and benefiting from it.
Yeah,
And not like 500
yeah.
strategies, but like pretty much one or two. Like,
Yeah, that's the same with any skill that you're learning or business that you're going. Like you can get so lost in the theory
yeah,
of this is
yeah,
how you start a business and this is what you should do
yeah,
first. And oh, look, you've watched a 3 hour course or a 4 hour course, but as you're watching that one, you've seen another one like in the recommendations that looks with a exciting thumbnail, or whatever. You hit that, watch later, and then
yeah,
suddenly you're just constantly watching stuff and not
yeah.
actually doing stuff. So yeah, forcing yourself to actually engage in the work and learn from the work and the roadblocks that you find in the work are, I think, a lot more fruitful, generally speaking. Yeah, man.
Yeah, it reminds me of that midwit meme, which I really enjoy and relate to a lot. You know what I'm talking about?
No,
Google
please
it now.
elaborate.
Midwit meme.
Midwit meme.
Yeah, it's
Midwit meme.
just for people
Oh yeah, these.
don't
Yeah,
know
I've
it.
seen these.
Yeah,
I just didn't know what
so
it
it's
was called.
like there's
Yeah.
like, how do you say it? Three models of like how to do it, and there's a graph in the middle or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, but the main thing is that there's three characters or three ways of going about it. There's the two on the left. There's a one on the left, one on the right. These are the ones who are like on the extremes of the curve or whatever. And one is usually like doing the the basic dumb version that just works, and then the other guy's doing
Yeah.
like maybe a more complex but still very simple thing. But the guy in the middle is a guy got this list of all these strategies and courses that he's following and this and that, and it's like
Yeah.
he's the
Yeah.
one that's actually suffering. So
Yeah.
usually with anything, it comes down to like just a few simple truths. Yeah, that's probably the right word. The simple truths or the simple facts of like what works, and just like doing that, you know.
Yeah.
So being actually the next like there's like three levels of, how do you say it, like using any of these methods that you hear of, right? So the first level is knowing nothing, like not even knowing the methods. The second level is knowing all the different methods and like watching loads of YouTube videos on how to do them and this and that. And then the third level is actually where you've heard of all these 57 different methods, and you know that one of them pretty much is the main one that like just does the job in the most simple, basic, good
Yeah.
way. And then you just use that and you forget the 56 others. So
Yeah.
sometimes that's what I found. Like after learning so many self-help things, I'm like, okay, now I've been through all that. I can filter what's will just work and is simple from the really complex stuff that might not actually even work. And then it's just like, okay, this is the main thing. Let me just do that. So sometimes, bro, yeah, there's nothing other than experience that will like help you with these things. I wanted to share something, bro. Like it's a bit of a different topic, but I think it's interesting to me at least. So it is the Jevons
Go for it.
paradox. Okay, Jevons paradox. So if I was
Okay.
to explain it, I'll just read it from this article. So in the 1800s, coal was, they use this Latin term sine qua non, whatever that is. Basically, it was the fundamental thing, I think that's what it means, of economic development, coal, okay? It was essential for everything from heating to transport to manufacturing. In Britain, where the country where the stuff first powered an industrial revolution, national leaders debated how concerned they should be about potentially depleting the coal deposits. Okay, so as industrial revolution is kicking off, they're thinking, well, damn, this stuff is so essential. What if we run out of it?
Yeah.
Some argued that supply would never be exhausted because improvements in steam engine designs would steadily reduce the amount of coal necessary to power a train or make a dress or do anything else. So productivity gains would allow Britain's coal resources to stretch further and further. Okay. But now this economist, William Stanley Jevons, okay, which he coined this Jevons paradox, he wrote a book in 1865 called The Coal Question. And he basically said that people are saying that we don't have to worry about how much coal we have because as we develop better technology, we're going to become more efficient. But what he stated was that as steam engines or whatever become more efficient, we're actually going to use more of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's our use of coal will not go down. The efficiency will go up, but that will actually make us use more of it because it's more efficient. And so this article was basically saying today, it says, today the Jevons paradox describes a situation where greater efficiency in deploying a resource causes demand to skyrocket. And they applied this to self-driving cars. They said that the theory is that when we have self-driving cars, what will happen? Number one, the emissions from the cars will be reduced because self-driving cars will drive in a more efficient way than humans do. They'll accelerate in a certain steady way, blah, blah, blah. Number two is that deaths from car crashes will also decrease from self-driving cars. But they said, but when the Jevons paradox plays in, because cars are safer, less emissions, more comfortable, and you could be more productive in a car. You could actually spend quality time with your family, or you could get work done in a car because you're not driving it anymore. What's going to happen? People are going to use cars more. Okay. So for example, the deaths per million kilometers driven, whatever, will go down because they're safer, but then people will drive more kilometers in it. And therefore the efficiencies will be like destroyed. So I never thought of that. And I thought it was pretty interesting because what you logically think might happen doesn't happen. And this happened as well with the light bulb. So LED lights are very, very efficient. But because they're so efficient, you see them everywhere. People buying loads of light bulbs. They're putting it everywhere. Probably, a little basic like glass or whatever. They have a little LED to light it up, make it look kind of, give it that ambient feel. So yeah, bro. The Jevons paradox.
It's interesting, man. Never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
I should have more to say on that, but no, it's interesting. It is interesting.
Have you seen these self-driving cars recently?
No, I haven't ever seen one in person.
Yeah, not in person, but like, have you seen the progress that's been made?
I've seen videos and stuff, of them just rolling. Like, I do think it's cool. I do think, like, when I was younger, like, I always wanted to be the drive, and I always like, especially when my dad was around, like, oh yeah, I'll drive or whatever, and the urge to drive all the time. Now that I'm older and I'm driving all the time, and I'm the only driver that I know because I'm the only one with a car in the family at the moment and all that sort of stuff. It's like I'm so tired of driving. Everywhere we're gonna go, like, I wish I could just sit in the back right now. And if they were prevalent and cheaper, you could just say I'll get a taxi, but like taxis are expensive. But you'd like to think if there was self-driving cars and there's so much of it, the cost would go down, etc.
Yes, you would.
I could imagine it pulling up to the driveway. Oh, the car's here. Everyone jump in.
Yeah.
Beep bop boop. See you later.
Yeah.
That'd be chill, man.
Yeah.
Chill.
So Waymo, which is Google's self-driving company, I just found out recently they're actually like operating full self-driving taxis in Phoenix, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, and they're moving into Austin in Texas as well. So when I say they're operating there, it's full, bro. Like Waymo app, call a self-driving car, and the self-driving car will take you, I believe, anywhere in that city, right? Wow. So it's like fully, it's like actually arrived in those cities. It's like arrived. And some people were saying like San Francisco, for example, it's not the most simple city to drive in. And therefore, if they're successfully doing that in San Francisco, then it means it could, like, the technology is roundabout there to operate in many cities, which is kind of crazy. Like, I don't know, you know, like we heard, I think you would have heard as well, like many companies working on this, including like Uber and Lyft and blah, blah, blah. But they just like weren't there yet. And I think Uber actually, they shut down their self-driving division because they're just like, yeah, it's so far off that we're not willing to like keep spending money on it. So I kind of, in my head, I like just dismissed it like, yeah, we're probably 10, 20 years away. But now it's here, like it's actually here.
That's crazy. Like, I think it's so many variables for them to think about when even implementing that. Like, I can imagine the difficulty of just trying to manage pedestrians, like walking around the street, but like other cars that are actually managed by human beings with human mistakes and human urges.
Exactly.
That's so difficult to manage because I can imagine a whole city that functions exclusively on self-driving vehicles can all talk to each other.
Yeah.
You know, and they all know where they are, and there's hard-coded rules that you can set.
Yeah.
You know, but
yeah, when it's mixed,
drivers are just stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just imagining the scenario where like there's a pedestrian walks out into the street and the self-driving car can stop like very quickly because it detects it. But then the human driver behind the self-driving car can't react that quickly and it will just hit it.
Yeah, man.
So yeah.
Even like yesterday I was crossing the road or Sunday I was crossing the road with my son. Green pedestrian thingy, like, and not just changed, like it's in the middle of its green phase. And we're halfway through the road, bro, and some guy in a big 4x4 just drives straight through. That could have hit me and my son. I was just like, you mug. And I'm thinking, yeah, no, you made me think of that when it came to the self-driving thing. That was a self-driving car. Probably wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
You know?
I wonder
but then you do hear of these stories, don't you? I know
Of
they're
what?
kind of blown out of proportion a lot of the time, but very sensationalized.
Well, like self-driving cars killing
car
people.
kills.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, well, flipping, how many people kill people?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I guess the whole thing is actually I read like a report because you know these companies that are allowed to operate these self-driving cars, they're very, you know, highly scrutinized and all of that. And yet the media does blow it up whenever an accident happens. But I think it was Waymo, they released like some sort of report of the safety of their cars. And it was actually like something like 50% less collisions or deaths from collisions or something, like 50% drop. And this is across millions of miles driven. So it is significant. And yeah, it's crazy, bro. Like I believe that, like it makes sense that it would be like that much safer. But it's already that much safer. And they're still like they're kind of in that testing, like being very careful phase. So it's pretty cool, bro. I'm ready for this. You know, some people say, I don't know if I would trust a car that drives by itself, but I think I would actually trust it, you know?
Yeah, I think like for me, I would want it to be like 20 miles an hour slower. You know, like let's say motorway, you're going on the motorway, for example, if it gets to that stage. Now motorway, 70 miles an hour? I don't mind going 60, even 55. I'll plan ahead and I'll go earlier. The luxury of having to be, you know, not having to drive, I don't mind if it takes me longer.
Yeah.
I really don't. I think I would, and I think that's one of the concerns that people have is like hands-free 70 miles an hour. That's terrifying, you know, but hands-free 50 mile an hour, well, that's not too bad.
I mean, what you're saying is like not logical at all, but I get it.
It is
but
for me, bro. No, because like a 50 mile an hour collision is a lot more, you know, survivable, especially with like airbags and stuff.
No, but what I'm saying is logically, you would actually say, I would be happy to go faster in a self-driving car, not slower.
Really? No.
Because it's safer. Like, I understand sometimes facts can't compute in our brain.
I know, yeah.
But like, just like purely logically, it's like, yeah, now that the robot, whatever, is driving, I want to go faster.
Yeah, go 100.
Yeah.
Just be like... It's like Neo in the Matrix, bro. It's just scanning the area.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything is code. You don't see people. You just see ones and zeros.
Just see code. Yeah. I was
Oh, mate.
thinking that that's the Jevons effect or paradox or whatever is that as well. That imagine, for example, bro, when you think about going London, you're thinking, oh, I'm gonna go drive there, this and that. Now imagine that it's self-driving car. Imagine that it's one of those like setups where the seats are facing each other, yeah, and you go in with your
Yeah.
family. It's actually like, how long does it take? Like an hour or something? Maybe an hour and
A
a
bit
half
more,
to
yeah.
get like fully through London or whatever. So it becomes something where it's like not such a big deal in your head, and you're like, yeah, I'll go every week. I'll go London every week. Yeah, I don't care. You know,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
imagine that happening for sure.
Yeah. And at this age, bro, there's so much. Like, I remember the kids get bored, but like adults shouldn't be getting bored now. Like,
Mm,
I crave time where I haven't got anything to do and just sit in a car and
yeah,
not have to do anything. Oh,
yeah,
I wish.
yeah.
The odd time. Actually, you know what? I get that now. 'Cause sometimes I don't take my car to work, for example. I don't unless I have to drive around the city. But I I walk to work. But sometimes I get a bus if I'm like I did leg day at the gym the other day. I was like, I can't walk all the way. My legs are killing me. Jumped on a bus and I went and sat there. I was like, oh, I forgot how nice this is.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, how nice it is just to be transported,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And I don't mind buses as much as unless they're really busy. I don't mind public transport. I think it's all right. Most people are just quiet and want to just get from A to B. Sometimes you just get the odd person, or sometimes you get on a bus and there's someone you know just got on the bus and you're like, I'm not here. Happened to me the other day. I was like on the bus. I look up and like, oh no, some ex colleague from like whatever just jumped up. I'm like, no, I'm not here. See you later. Um, so yeah, being in public's a bit of a hit and miss, but yeah, self driving car with your family. Yeah, man. No, like crazy music being played by the North African taxi driver that you keep telling, like hinting, like, hey, can you just switch it off, please? You know, not that I get taxis, but yeah. Oh, and also like not having to like constantly maintain your car. It's like, oh, bro,
Mm.
kids constantly eating snacks in the back of the car and just getting crumbs everywhere. And like, especially when it's a long journey, it's like, do I have to deal with them saying they're hungry for all this journey, or should I just let them eat? And I always default to say, oh, forget it, just eat. And then I have to go home my car later, you know, but I never do. And then it just ends up one day after another, more crumbs and more crumbs. And before you know it, your car is looking
Mm.
dreadful.
I need to get into that because
Oh,
the last time I had a car, my son was like one. I had one child and he was like 1 year old or maybe even less than that. And that's all I know of in terms of having a car and having kids. I mean, I rented a lot of cars since I've been here. But again, like you said, like with a rental, I'm not bothered about
yeah.
dirt and that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
But it's just also like it depends what car you've got as well. Like I suppose self-driving, you can request the same with taxi, you can request what kind of size car you
Yes.
want or whatever for this
Yeah.
trip. Um like now the car I have, just because of the seating and the car seat arrangement, it's very difficult to have all three car seats at the back.
Hmm.
It's quite tough.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is put one at the front. So Suleiman will sit at the front. He's
Hmm.
got a booster, but he still
Yeah.
needs it legally. And my
Yeah.
wife will have to sit in the middle of the other two at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
back. And it's like, oh, I have to
Cramped.
go drive 2 hours with Suleiman talking about everything. And I'm
Dinosaurs.
not, I love my son, but like, dude, he's got a wild imagination. He wants to tell me about like the whole trip is him talking about things I don't know what he's talking about.
42 minutes in, he just want to press the off button.
Alhamdulillah, and I know one day I'm gonna look back and think, "Oh my God, I missed those years."
Yeah. Well, not the
So
off
I
button.
do
You
always
just want
try and
to,
act to
you just
remind
like
myself.
you reach for the volume on the radio and you're just hoping it'll work.
Oh, I feel bad for saying that. Maybe people are gonna hate me for saying that. But when you're a parent, you understand. Don't judge me. When you're a parent,
Yes.
you'll understand.
Yeah.
Kids
No, I
do that.
mean, what do they say? The poison is in the dose, right? So too much of anything is like overwhelming.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. But it's also like it can be a bit distracting as well because
Mm.
I used to go to London a lot, so those roads are easier, like motorway and stuff. But now I go, I have to go to Winchester quite often, and from here to there is a motorway route, but it's quicker taking like country roads. Driving on country roads can be a
Need
little
to
bit more,
focus.
especially when they're unfamiliar. Yeah, I got to focus a lot more, whether it's like blind corners or, you know, deers jumping out at me or whatever,
Yeah.
animals in the bushes. Yeah, it's a lot harder to do all of that whilst
Yeah. I
whilst,
don't know.
whilst,
I don't know
whilst
about you.
talking
Sometimes,
about
you
beach
know,
rides to the end of the world.
with my eldest, he mashallah talks a lot, and he talks loudly. And sometimes I'll just
Oh
tell
yeah.
him, look, I need you to not talk now. Just stop talking for a bit. And he actually listens, mashallah.
Oh no. Oh, those are like the memories that are going to be burned into his mind. It's like,
No,
have you
it's
ever
not
asked your
rude.
kid?
It's
Okay,
very
here's an
matter of
experiment.
fact.
Do
Yeah.
this. Do this.
Yeah.
Do this experiment.
Okay.
And I urge any parent to do this experiment. Did
Yeah.
this the other day. Just crossed my mind. I said, let's do it. I was upstairs with my wife. We were just sitting in bed, and the kids were just playing in front of us. You know. And I said, hey, kids, pretend that you're mummy. Just like start acting like your mum.
Okay.
And then they just default to the first thing that they can
Okay.
think. Now, I
Yeah.
must be honest, I can't remember what they did for mum.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
remember what they did,
Yeah.
but I remember it was like they made me laugh or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was like all wholesome or whatever. The way they saw their mum, despite the fact that she will tell them off and she will, you know, be
Yeah.
at home and
Yeah.
all this
Yeah.
stuff. It was very wholesome and stuff.
Yeah.
And then my wife was like, okay, now act like your dad. And
Yeah.
immediately it was like,
They just
be
jumped
quiet.
onto Webflow.
It's like, I'm working, all this stuff. And it made me so sad, bro, because I was like, oh man, that's how you see me. So yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, do that
Don't do
experiment.
that stuff, bro. It's gonna depress you.
Just do it. Just do it. Because it makes you conscious of like, oh, okay, I get
I'll
it.
do
This
it,
is what
bro.
they're
That'll be
resorting to.
interesting. I need to remember to do
It is
that today,
interesting.
inshallah.
Honestly, yeah. I'm sure there was nice things they did. What, like, yeah, like Ilyas was nice. Ilyas is always nice, bro. He's always nice to me. I guess because he's middle child.
Yeah,
He's always trying to
best.
suck up to us.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, man. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Anyway,
Should we wrap it
should we
from
wrap it
there?
up? Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Okay,
Let's
great.
wrap it up.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله